Hi there, and welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today I'm going to show you how to make the perfect seared scallops in the Ninja Foodi. And then we're going to put it over a bed of Israeli or pearled couscous with vegetables. And this dish is just everything you imagine about a flavorful summertime dish. So definitely stick around for this one. The first thing we need to do is get our scallops prepared. This is probably the most important step anytime you want to sear scallops. Whether you want to go with the Israeli couscous and the vegetables, that doesn't matter. This part stays the same no matter what you're going to serve with your seared scallops. And that is to get them cleaned, thawed if they're frozen, and also they need to be super, super dry. So what I have here is a little bit of ice water, which I thawed the frozen scallops. These are sea scallops, not bay scallops. Bay scallops are really small, like maybe the size of the tip of your thumb, whereas sea scallops are nice and large. And those are the kinds you want when you're gonna sear scallops, to serve over top of a dish or just by themselves. They're delicious. So on the scallops, now this one does not have it, so I'm looking around for the abductor muscle. The abductor muscle is where the scallop is attached in the shell. We want to remove those. Sometimes they're already gone, like in this instance, there is no abductor muscle. So that's fine. So let's find one that has one. And this one does. So on the side of the scallop, you'll see a little protrusion. Usually they're pretty nice and round. There's a little protrusion here and it looks a little bit darker usually. And all you have to do is just pull it off and it just comes off very simply. But if you don't pull it off, that part will be very chewy. So I definitely recommend getting rid of the abductor muscle. That's the first step to having a really good seared scallop that just melts in your mouth. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that with all of them. And again, this one doesn't have one. It just fell off, that's fine. This one doesn't have one either. This has a little piece here. That's actually part of the scallop. I'm gonna leave that alone. That is not the abductor muscle. Here's another good example of an abductor muscle, and you can really tell where they are. Just take a peek around and you'll be able to see. And it just peels right off. And this one doesn't have one. And this one is a little less noticeable, but it's still there and it's smaller. But that just peels off as well. You can cut them off, but I prefer to just peel them so I keep a good edge to the scallop. All right, so look, 3 out of, I think we have 7 here, had the abductor muscles, and that's kind of usual. Okay, so the next step that we need to do is to get the scallops really dry. Now you can actually do this hours in advance, overnight, it's fine. But we're gonna do it in just 40 minutes. I'm gonna get these dry. So what I'm gonna do is there's some wetness here on the cutting board and I don't wanna put my paper towel down. What I'm gonna do here is set the paper towel kind of on the edge so it doesn't get too wet. And we're gonna put the scallops inside the paper towel. And you could also use like a dishcloth if you prefer. You don't have to use paper towels. And they're gonna immediately soak this paper towel. So you're gonna do this a couple of times because look, it just totally tore apart. So I've got some more here and I'm gonna do it again. And don't worry, the paper towel does not leave anything on the scallop. You can just peel it right off. So the reason why we want these scallops really super dry is because if you try to sear a wet scallop, what's gonna happen is when you put it in the hot pan, it's gonna start to release its juices and it's just not gonna get that really nice golden brown sear that we're looking for. So I'm gonna do this just one more time, then I'm gonna wrap them in paper towels, put them on this plate, and I'm gonna stick them in the refrigerator until we're ready to use them. And by that time, most of the water or the liquid will have come out of the scallop and we'll be good to go. All right, so let's just get these on our paper towels to put in the refrigerator. Now I have like a triple layer of paper towels here, and I'm just gonna open this up and put them in a single layer. They still feel quite moist, so definitely they will absorb, the paper towels will absorb a lot more liquid before we're ready to cook them. All right. Now I'm not gonna season or anything like that at this point. We'll do that right before we sear them. We are just gonna season them with simple salt and pepper. Good scallops are perfect. They do not need a lot of seasoning, but a little salt and pepper helps form that crust and just get that beautiful, flavorful scallop. All right, so I'm gonna pop these in the refrigerator, and then we're gonna get to making our Israeli couscous with vegetables, which is a super quick and easy summertime meal with or without the scallops, and it's gonna come together in no time at all. All right, so the scallops are now in the refrigerator, so they're gonna finish drying, wrapped in those paper towels, and we're gonna get started on the Israeli couscous with vegetables. And the Israeli couscous is a pasta. This is not that fine grained couscous that maybe many of you are familiar with. This is a pearled couscous or Israeli couscous, which is a little ball of pasta. And it's super delicious in this recipe, and that's why I chose it. And I chose it quite by accident, to be honest with you. I wanted to make a risotto and vegetable dish for underneath the scallops, and I didn't have any risotto. So I had some pearled couscous. I thought, well, I'm just testing the recipe. Let me just see how this works out. And oh my gosh, it was so perfect that I decided to go with it. So we have the Israeli couscous, and we have some vegetables. I have about a cup of carrots, which was 2 medium-sized carrots. I have some zucchini. It's about 2 cups of zucchini, which was 1 good-sized zucchini that came out of our garden. When I've tested this recipe, I've also tested it with green beans and spinach. If you want to substitute for spinach, add that at the end when we add in our peas, or the spinach will become complete mush under pressure. I have some onions here that are in about a 1/4-inch dice, a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme, and I have 8 ounces of the small portobello mushrooms. So the seasonings in this are super easy. Salt, pepper, garlic, that's it. So we're gonna get started with sauteing. Turn on the Ninja Foodi, hit the sear saute. The high function is what we want, so we want it to be on the high temperature. 2 tablespoons of butter, put that in. And I have 4 to 5 cloves of, these 4 cloves are here, but you could use 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever you want, of garlic, which I peeled and then I just smashed with my knife. So I'm gonna release some of the garlic flavor, but it won't be real pungent. So we're gonna get those in to saute. Put in our onions. All right, so the onions are in. We're gonna put in our carrots, which I just cut these in about 1/2 inch rounds. You could get a little fancier. You could cut them on the bias. You do want them to be about 1/2 inch though, so they don't overcook during the pressure cooking time. So I'm just gonna dump those in. Dump in our 2 cups of Israeli or pearled couscous. Again, not to be mistaken for the very small grain couscous that is used in a lot of Mediterranean cooking. And we're gonna put in those 2 cups of zucchini. Now, if you wanted to use string beans, you could do that too. Just throw those in. You can pretty much use any vegetable you want, as long as you keep in mind that we're gonna go under pressure for 3 minutes on low. So you don't want anything that's gonna take longer than that to cook. And you don't wanna put spinach or peas in right now because they would overcook as well. Unless your peas are fresh from the garden. If they are fresh and uncooked, you could probably get away with putting them in right now. All right, so let's let that butter melt, and we're just gonna saute that for about 3 minutes, and I'm gonna add in my seasoning, which again, I told you is very simple. 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. Just put that in. And we'll let that get heated up and starting to saute while I cut up the mushrooms. The reason why I wanted to show you how to cut up the mushrooms is because there is a certain technique for cleaning mushrooms that is really important. And I also wanted to talk about some findings that I have with the Ninja Foodi and mushrooms, because it was surprising to me and it might be surprising to you as well. So mushrooms. A lot of times, these are really clean mushrooms, honestly, they really are. But sometimes, you'll get them, they're covered with the dirt. And a lot of people want to throw them in the sink to wash them or wash them under running water. That is not the correct way to wash a mushroom because mushroom is a sponge. So if you put your mushrooms in water, to rinse off, they will absorb that water and they will pretty much become flavorless and very mushy, and they just don't taste that good, in my opinion. So in order to properly clean a mushroom, what I do is I take the stems off. You don't have to, but I always do. I usually don't eat the stems. So I pop those off, and then I just take a lightly damp paper towel. And I mean this, you couldn't squeeze water out if you tried. It's very lightly damp. And I just wash them off like this. Just kind of get off any areas that you see that there's a little bit of dirt. And that's all you do. And then for this recipe, we're going to cut them in fours. We want them to be bite size. So the other thing that I found about mushrooms, which just shocked me, and it is a direct contradiction to a post that I just wrote, honestly, about pressure cooking. And so I have to go in and update that post. Mushrooms usually give off a lot of water. So when you saute them in a pan, if you overcrowd them and you don't get them brown in a fat like butter or something like that, usually they just kind of turn into a very soft, steamed kind of a mushroom. So I thought for sure, with pressure cooking, mushrooms would be almost a no-no, that they must give off so much water that they're going to be like nothing when they come out. Well, in fact, it's the exact opposite. Mushrooms do beautifully under pressure because they're a sponge, so they absorb all the liquid, and they stay really plump, they stay firm, and they are delicious. So I'm super excited about that because I will be putting more mushrooms into my dishes in the future. This was a great find for me and something I really was not expecting. I'm starting to hear a little sizzling going on over there. That means our butter is melting, and we'll get a little saute on the vegetables and the pearled couscous. And then we will go under pressure for 3 minutes on low. Now, we don't often use a low setting when we're pressure cooking. Usually it's high, but for this recipe, I found that the low works perfectly. The Israeli couscous is cooked perfectly. The vegetables are perfect. So that is the setting that you want. Low pressure for 3 minutes. All right. We're also going to put in 2.5 cups of water. And you could use chicken stock, okay, of course. But what I'm doing is trying to keep this part vegetarian for some of the people out there that like a vegetarian diet. So I'm using a vegetable base. It really works nicely. I haven't tried chicken stock, but I'm sure it would be fine in this as well. This is such a beautiful dish. All right, so we're about to go under pressure. So what I want to add in now is my fresh thyme. Now I have about 4 sprigs of thyme here that I'm going to use. This is English thyme, but you could use lemon thyme. Sometimes I'll use a combination of both. This is just regular English thyme, which is just the regular thyme you're used to seeing. Now, if you can't find fresh thyme, or you want to make this and you have dried thyme, you can do that. You would probably add about 1/2 teaspoon or so to make up for the 4 sprigs. All right, so here we go. Looks like the butter has almost completely melted. It smells good already, believe it or not. All right, so let's get in the last couple ingredients, which is our liquid, of course, and most important here is our vegetable base. And again, you could use chicken stock if you wanted, or you can use any kind of base that you like. I find that this from Miners has a spectacular flavor, so much better than what you can get at the grocery store. And I ordered this online and from Amazon, and I will link to it below because this is a fabulous product. A lot of restaurants use the Miners blend, but you can also use Better Than Bouillon if you have that at home. But when you run out, give the Miners a try because it is spectacular. The flavor is just amazing. All right, let's give this one final stir around, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add in the liquid, which is just 2.5 cups of water. It's just plain tap water. All right, another little quick stir around, and we will get the pressure lid on. We're gonna go under pressure for 3 minutes on low. That's very important. All right, so here we go. Make sure that your valve in the back is to the seal position because we do want to go under pressure. And we're going to hit the pressure button and we're going to take the temp down to low. The time is going to be 3 minutes. And we're going to hit start. And then we'll expect the pot to come up to pressure probably within about 5 to 8 minutes, and then we'll go under low pressure for 3 minutes. We will do an immediate release, and then we'll get this out of the pot, we'll sear our scallops, we'll plate, and we'll taste it. Okay, so we are all done. We went under pressure, low pressure for 3 minutes, and now I'm going to do an immediate release. Okay, the red button to press, which means we are no longer under pressure, and I can open up the lid, do that away from you so that the steam is directed away from your face because it is still very hot. And now we're gonna throw in the last ingredient, which is 1 cup of frozen peas that I thawed, okay? So they're thawed out, but I didn't wanna put them in when we went under pressure because they would have overcooked. And now we'll just stir this in. Just looks beautiful. Yum. All right, so I'm gonna transfer this out because we're gonna use the Ninja Foodi to sear the scallops. So I'm just gonna transfer it into this container here that has a lid so that I can keep it warm while we sear the scallops. These sprigs of thyme, I'll leave them in until I serve it, and then I'll remove them. A lot of the flavor's already there. You could take the leaves off the sprig if you wanted. I just don't usually worry about it. I'm not using the right utensil, I don't think, for scooping this out. So let me go get a spoon. I'm gonna finish transferring this over to this pot, and then I'm gonna rinse this out, and we're gonna get it onto a high saute so that we can get ready to sear our scallops. All right, so I transferred all of the Israeli couscous with the vegetables to this container, so it's gonna stay warm. I mean, it's really actually very hot just to even touch, so be careful if you use this. This is the double stack steamer, which they come in handy for a lot of things, so I will link to those below too. It's what I make my double stack lasagna in, so I'll link to that right up there so you can check out that recipe because it's super delicious and extremely easy. You don't even have to boil the noodles. It's really easy. All right, so to sear the scallops, what you want is your inner pot in the Ninja Foodi, and you want to hit the sear saute, which I've already done, on high, and just hit the start button. Dry pot, okay? You don't need to put anything in the pot at this moment, and it needs to get super hot. So I'm just gonna let that heat up while we season up the scallops. So what I'm gonna do here is just take these off of the paper towels where they have been drying in the refrigerator. And we're going to season them with simple salt and pepper. So what I'm using is a sea salt, and I'm keeping a clean hand here and a dirty hand here, okay? We're gonna use a sea salt, which is a fine grind sea salt, and we're just gonna sprinkle it. I'm not measuring, I'm just sprinkling it over the top of each one of these scallops. I'm gonna flip it. You could put other seasonings if you like, but honestly, I find that salt and pepper is the best way to season scallops for searing. a little salt on both sides. And then for the pepper, I'm gonna be using a restaurant grind pepper. So this would be equivalent to if you ground it at home with a pepper grinder. So it's a little bit coarser. It's not as thin as the regular table pepper that we use a lot. But I used table pepper when I made the couscous. I just like this because it gives a little bit more of a crust. I like to use it on steaks, and it works really well for the scallops too. All right, so flip these over and get the other side. If you didn't like pepper, you could omit this step and just use the salt. You could really just sear them without anything, but I like the salt and pepper. I think it gives a good flavor. Okay, so that's done. Now, let's see if our pot is hot enough. What I have here is, somebody recommended this to me, and I've got to dig up that email and thank him because these are fantastic. They are EVO spray bottles, and I've used a lot of the aerosol and the pump kind, and they always get clogged and they're just difficult to use. This has been amazing. I really love it. I recommend it, and it's in my Amazon shop, as well as I'll link to it below in the See More section of the video. So what I want to do is just spray it in here, and it didn't quite make any noise. So I'm just gonna let this pot heat up for a few more minutes. You could also take just a tiny bit of water, see if it starts to sizzle. You want the pot to be super, super hot before you put the scallops on. We've got one chance to really start to sear those scallops and get that nice golden brown crust. So don't rush this step. So because of the design of the Ninja Foodi being convex in the middle, meaning it's like a little raised up in the middle, the olive oil goes to the sides, and that's fine for searing scallops. In fact, that's pretty good because you can sear scallops in a completely dry pan. I followed a lot of different recipes over the years, I'll use that loosely, of using combination of butter and oil and a dry pan, no oil. And honestly, the most consistent seared scallops that I've ever gotten has been with the Ninja Foodi, and that's the truth. So let's see, do we hear the sizzle? Yay, we hear that sizzle. So I'm just gonna put the scallops down on one side, and I'm putting them around the middle, not on the edges. If you wanted to make more than 8, I would do them in 2 batches. You don't want to put too many in the pot at once. All right, now we leave them alone. This is the hardest part. You have to just leave them alone. Don't flip, don't do anything. I am gonna spray some olive oil in there in just a minute. I can start to see some of the underneath really getting quite brown. And as soon as I see a little bit more of that, then I will be spraying some oil. I'm gonna go ahead and just spray right in here, right on top. That oil is getting around. I probably did about 5 sprays. The oil is getting around the bottoms now, but they've already adhered, so they've already created that great crust. Now, the thing that you wanna do when you go to flip your scallops, because they're gonna cook about 1.5 to 2 minutes on the one side, is if you go in to remove it and it sticks to the pan, don't do anything. It's not ready. It will release itself when it's ready. So if you go with, something that's non-stick and you go underneath and it doesn't lift up, don't do anything. All right, so this one is releasing, so now I'm gonna flip it over towards the edge where that oil is. So that one released, and we got a beautiful, beautiful sear on it. Now, it doesn't matter if you get a sear on both sides. It really doesn't, because you're only gonna see the side that's facing up. All right, let's see if this one is ready to go, and it's not quite. All right, so let's check this one. Nope. Nope, not quite. This one should be almost ready though. That's the first one I put in. Nope, not ready. That one is releasing. Perfect. Seared scallop. This is awesome because believe it or not, searing scallops is simple, but it's not easy. I mean, it's a simple thing to do. You just sear them in the bottom of a pot, but to get that crust, it's not that easy. That one didn't give me quite as much browning. And the first one we put in still hasn't released itself. Nope, not yet. I'm gonna just go ahead and spray just another little bit there. This is the same principle too with steaks, especially on a grill. You definitely want to let them cook until they release naturally. That's when the Maillard reaction has occurred, which gives the flavor to food. Oh boy, that one's beautiful. That one that really stayed there for a while, the first one we put down, is gorgeous. All right, they look like they're all pretty much releasing now. Pretty amazing because I don't think I've ever done 8 scallops and all 8 of them. If this one has the top on it that we're looking for, then all 8 turned out great. Oops. And it does. Perfect. All right, so at this point, just turn the Ninja Foodi off and we'll let them sit for about a minute just to cook all the way through. You want the scallops to be about a translucent color, but you don't want to overcook them. Overcooked scallops are rubbery as well, so you don't want to do that. You want to definitely err on the side of undercooking. Okay, so the first one that I flipped over actually was ready to be flipped again, and look at that. So we have a perfectly seared scallop on both sides. It's beautiful. It smells amazing. I'm super excited about this. And let's just see. I don't want these to overcook. So even if they haven't completely seared, like this one didn't completely sear, I don't want to overcook it. And we'll just serve it that way. And it'll look beautiful on our plate. That one we got a little bit of sear on both sides. But again, it's more important to me that I don't overcook them than get a sear on the underside. Because I just don't want that to happen. These are so pretty. Oops. And that one just seared just a little bit. But again, it's not going to matter. All right, seared scallops are done. Perfect. So real quick, while these are just kind of resting here before we plate and give it a taste, I wanted to talk about just some other ways that I tried to sear scallops, just so you know that I did try several different ways. So I tried them in the cast iron pan, which this does fit in the Ninja Foodi, and I have this on my Amazon store. I can see great uses for it, but when I went to sear scallops, I preheated it with broil, put a little bit of the olive oil in, and I seared them. I put the scallops in, put the broil down, and went to broil, and I did not get as good of a result as I did in the bottom of the Ninja Foodi. They were good, they tasted good, but they just didn't get the browning. So for this, I don't recommend the cast iron. I recommend using the inner pot of the Ninja Foodi, and you will get these gorgeous scallops. Now be careful, this is super hot. All right, let's get some out here. Whoops, that's sprig of thyme. bits here. I'm only going to taste one of the scallops, and I'm going to taste one that isn't that pretty. And that is because I need to do some pictures. So probably this one. And I don't think I've mentioned this in the video yet. This will feed at least 6 to 8 people, okay? So if you wanted to have probably about 3 scallops would be good per plate if you wanted it to be for dinner, 2 if it was for lunch. So, you know, just plan accordingly with the scallops. And remember, any more than 8, you probably want to do 2 batches. All right, so first let's taste the carrot, which I could tell by putting in the fork. It's perfect. My goodness. All right, let's get into the pearled couscous. This is heavenly. I would have to describe it. I mean, you can tell it's pasta, but it's got like a little chew to it. It is perfect. I just absolutely love it. And here's that zucchini. Now let's see, did it get 2 done? Wow, that's so fresh and delicious. All right, mushroom. Because this is what's so interesting. So these mushrooms are still completely like firm. I mean, they're cooked, but they are firm. They are delicious too. Oh my goodness. All right, so now for the seared scallop. See, did I cook it perfectly? It should cut with a fork. It should not be dry. It should not be chewy at all. It should have a translucent center, which we have. That is heaven. It's melt in your mouth. Oh my goodness. Unbelievable. Now, truth be told, a little too much pepper. I would back off the pepper. The taste is amazing, but the pepper's a little overwhelming. So I would probably just use a little bit less pepper than I did. But oh my gosh, absolutely perfect. And let's make sure the pea is cooked, you know, hot, I guess I should say. This is a great one, whether you want to serve it with the scallops or serve it as a side dish, serve it as a complete vegetarian dish. This is absolutely delicious. The seared scallops, of course, you could serve them any way you want, but they do work perfectly with the pearled couscous, which is also known as Israeli couscous. The flavors are amazing, and you know what else? This would be a perfect quick soup. I would think you would just need to double your liquid amount, maybe 1.5 times the liquid amount, and of course the vegetable base if you wanted to keep it vegetarian, and make it into a quick soup. I mean, how easy and delicious would that be? If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe right over there to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you get notified when I put out a new video. Another recipe you might enjoy is my shrimp scampi, so I'm gonna link to that right over there.